Hi, Taurus. Welcome to your love, romance, and relationship reading. So, I'm sensing that some of you, there is an overdue, long overdue apology. I'm feeling it strongly that this is something that you need to, an apology that you need to give to another person, rather than an apology that they need to give to you. That's what I'm feeling. And I feel like you can easily tell them, I'm sorry. And then the whole situation will completely go away. But I'm feeling that some of you don't believe in that apology. And so, yes, it is easy to just say, I'm sorry. And then, let bygones be bygones and things will be all lovey-dovey again. But I feel like you don't believe in it, so you're not going to say it. And the other person is also really stubbornly clinging on, waiting for that apology. Otherwise, they're not going to budge. That's what I'm feeling for some of you. And I feel like this is the month where you might start to miss them. And you might just want to say like, oh, I'm sorry, just to get it done and over with. And I feel some of you might reach out and do it. While I feel that others, there's still going to be, communication and things like that, where you're just like asking them, hey, how are you? And just pretending like, that conflict never happened. Just pretending like you don't need to say that apology to them. So I feel like it can work, but I'm sensing that whatever was not properly hashed out always comes back in relationships, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so maybe the smart thing to do is nip it in the bud and, to try to just figure out why you both are seeing things from different viewpoints, because obviously that is the problem. It's not about the apology. It's that you don't really agree on who's at fault. And so it seems like this is an ongoing discussion that needs to be hashed out further, so that you both can, figure out what really went wrong, okay? So let's go into your reading here. Let me talk about the foundation. I have here the Knight of Swords. This is an air sign, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. And I feel like this is somebody that you might have known for quite some time, okay? So Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising. When it's in the reverse position, this is somebody who speaks very, very quickly. It's like their mind is way too fast for their mouth. They're thinking like a mile a minute, and they're struggling physically to catch up with their thoughts. So they might say a lot of things about a lot of things, and you don't even know, if they really believe in half the things that they say. And I feel like it's somebody that almost has like, they have like, they don't have a filter as to, they're not like, it feels like they're scattered, but it's not that they're scattered. They're very intelligent. I just feel like they don't really have a filter. They don't know that what they need to share and what they should hold back. So when you're dealing with this person, it can feel very exhausting because energetically they do wear you out. Okay. And I feel like if you are dealing with this person, it's almost like difficult to communicate with them, mainly because you're talking about one thing and their mind is racing to something else that is irrelevant to what you're talking. So their energy seems to me like it's almost like, attention deficit. It's somebody that is impossible to have a relationship with. And I feel like there might be as well a lack of an emotional connection between two people. Okay. If you have been waiting on communication from this person, this air sign, I feel like things are going to be a lot better in their life. So whatever issues they've been dealing with, if they haven't been very receptive to, talking to you, talking things out, resolving issues, figuring out what's wrong, how the two of you can move forward. We have this Wheel of Fortune. It's linked up with the Knight of Swords. So I feel like this is kind of like the portal, the opportunity opening up for you to have a second chance with this person. Kind of like to hash things out, to talk about things, to square away our differences, to really get to the nitty gritty details of Why did we argue in the first place? So I feel like there's a turnaround. There's things happening for the better in this relationship. With the Knight of Swords in the reverse position, I want you to be a little bit careful when you're dealing with this person. I feel that because they're so scattered and because they're so attention deficit, you need to take charge in this conversation. You need to take charge. You need to tell them, slow down, let me facilitate. You need to tell them, you know, you're not making sense. You need to be the one to kind of take charge and put your foot down when you're interacting with this person. If they are confusing you, you need to say so. If they're running circles around you, you need to say so. If they're giving you half-baked ideas, or if they're giving you promises that they don't intend to keep, you need to hold them accountable. You need to say like, well, you promised that, you know, 3 years ago and I'm still waiting. So what has changed this time? So I feel like you really need to be on top of your game here and facilitate that conversation with this air sign. Otherwise, they're going to run circles around you. And I feel like it's going to be very frustrating. And you would rather just agree to have them kind of go away than to deal with them, because this is somebody who is not very stable mentally, okay? Going back to the past, what we have here is the Queen of Wands. So I have some of you dealing here with a fire sign. So this is a Sagittarius, an Aries, or a Leo. And this is somebody who is very nurturing, very loving, really caring. They like to cook. They like to take care of you. They like to, you know, coordinate. I want to say like they like to coordinate outfits for whatever reason that's coming up. They like to coordinate outfits. I was thinking they say like coordinate events. They're also an event planner, but like they like to coordinate outfits with you. They want to make sure that the two of you look good together. They care about the way they look. They're possibly very quite attractive, like very popular, very attractive, very fashionable, and they like to take care of you. And I feel like for those of you who are dealing here with a fire sign, you're still in a relationship with them. And I also feel like there's a lot of love, there's a lot of nurturing energy with this person. And I honestly feel like they do a lot in the relationship, Taurus. And what you're giving back here is the Page of Cups. So if they're giving you this, you know, all this love, all this attention, and they're just pouring and dumping all this love and this affection upon you, I feel like you might be taking it for granted, or some of you feel like it's a little bit too much and you were frightened, okay? I feel like for some of you, you might have left this person behind. And you want to reach out, you want to reconnect with them, you want to reconcile with them, and you also want to wish them well. You know, if they're not taking you back, then you want to wish them well. But it just feels to me like one of the reasons why this relationship did not work out is because they approach you like this. They're giving you everything, all that they have. But I feel like you weren't at a point in your life where you were able to reciprocate. And I feel like you might not honestly love them as much. And the prospect of, you know, being in a relationship with them, it's a little bit scary because it's a little bit too intense. They love a little bit too much. And I feel like you're just not on there. You're just not there. You needed more time. And I feel like this person was rushing it. So you're trying to tell them to slow down and they're trying to speed up. And I feel like that might have been caused the demise of the relationship, because this person, they need that reciprocity. So they need it to feel secure, to feel loved, to feel wanted and needed. And I feel like you were at a point where you can't give that to them. Okay, so this is a relationship that's moving into the past now. And what we have right now is an air sign, an Aquarius, a Gemini, or a Libra. And I feel like this might be the same energy where I feel like this might be the person that you want to say sorry to, this fire sign. I feel like you want to wish them well. You want to say you're sorry. And then I'm feeling like for this person, this air sign, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, they're argumentative. Okay. They don't really They argue on semantics, on technicalities, and it is really, really hard for you to talk around them. And I feel like they've caught you many times, just like because they're nitpicky. And while it is, yes, easier to just say, I'm sorry, it's, but you don't really think that they're fighting fair. So I feel like there is an issue here that you have with an air sign. And it has been an issue for many, many, many months where things were not moving ahead, where you were not able to see things from their perspective. And so this is the month where you have kind of like a different vantage point from which you can approach this old relationship or this old problem that keeps creeping into your relationship. And you can also, learn as well. They're showing up in the upright position. So I feel like they do have trust issues. They're not an overly warm and affectionate person. And so when they have trust issues, they can't just come to you and say like, I feel like you're seeing somebody else, or I feel like you're still communicating with the other person. They're not like that, because that to them shows weakness. And so what they do is they're going to dig through your phone. They're going to dig through, your address book. I don't know if people still have that. They're going to dig through your emails. They're going to find ways to figure out what they want to figure out, and approaching you directly and showing how hurt they are and how vulnerable they are. That's not them. So if you're wondering why this air sign is going through your phone, it's because of trust issues. And I feel like you need to have this conversation so that you can talk about this openly, because they're a little bit emotionally stunted. They don't want to put themselves in a situation where they have to have an uncomfortable conversation with you. It makes them feel vulnerable. It makes them feel exposed. It makes them feel, I just feel uncomfortable. So if that's the situation, hash things out, okay? So I feel like there is going to be some clearing up, and you're going to start to see things from this person's perspective. Whereas you were looking at things from the bottom up. How did things, start out? It started out as something small, and then it escalated. Now you're looking at things from the top down, where it doesn't really matter what created it. I have to deal with, the symptoms. I have to make it all go away. I can't just put a Band-Aid on it because now it's too big. So I feel like there's going to be some major overhaul in a relationship as to the way that you both solve a problem. And I feel like it's going to be good for your relationship, but I feel that it is a very uncomfortable process for your relationship partner. You might not have been aware of how uncomfortable it is, but I feel like it's something that they don't really want to discuss. And so I feel like this is a good month. Mercury in retrograde energy is actually very good for solving problems from the past, solving problems that you couldn't find a solution to in the past. And a lot of people, if they've had like a math problem that they've been stumped on, if they've had like creative blockages as well, I feel like Mercury retrograde is a good time to revisit, half-baked ideas, unfinished projects, unfinished arguments, and things like that. So I feel there might be arguments creeping up, okay, unfortunately. But I feel like your partner is a lot more vulnerable than you think. And so you have to treat this kind of like delicately, treat it with kitty gloves, okay? And so crowning this reading is something that you're thinking about. I have here the Strength card in the reverse. And I feel like you're thinking somebody is stubborn. They're thinking that you're very, very stubborn. There is great attraction in this relationship. Okay, this is a card about temptation. This is a card overall about, two people, different species being attracted to each other. And it basically speaks to the human experience where, opposites attract. We are always going to be attracted to people who are polar opposites from us. The relationship can start out in a very dynamic way, but then it can also create a lot of tension and a lot of conflict, because you and the other person are both very, 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 very stubborn. I feel like some of you are dealing with another fixed sign. So fixed signs are Aquarius, Leos, Taurus and Scorpio. So I feel like you might be dealing with another Leo, somebody who is incredibly, incredibly stubborn with the Strength card here, or another fixed sign. And what's happening here with the Three of Wands in the reverse as well is I feel like it's easier to just say goodbye than deal with these issues. It's easier to just turn our backs and, not wait around for a resolution, not wait around for the other person, because the other person is just so stubborn. But I feel that we have to, like, you guys are encountering this energy so that you can start to see things, like slip yourself into somebody else's shoes, metaphorically, and see things from their perspective, because I feel like that has been one of the major problems in relationships for Scorpios, for Leos, for Aquarius, and for Taurus. You see things only from your point of view, and not just you, all the other fixed signs. And it's really hard when, especially when the partner doesn't want to change, and you feel like, well, if they're not changing for me, they must not love me. Scorpios have a tendency to do that. And so I feel like that's what's happening here. The other person is not changing because they feel like that is not them living out their authentic self. So it has nothing to do with you. And so the thing here is we need to kind of like approach problem solving from a different vantage point if we want to make progress. And yes, while it is easier to just turn our back, pretend this person doesn't exist, and just be on our way, I feel like you would reach a lot more satisfaction, a lot more, you would be at a place with higher insights, higher wisdom, if you rough it out and if you get through this, okay? Because there's a lot of learning that needs to be done with this relationship, and it's not done just yet. It's not over yet. With the Wheel of Fortune here, I feel like there is a do-over, there is a second chance, and there is, things turning around for the better. Maybe they're feeling softer, more vulnerable, and they're not going to be so defensive, okay? So what's coming in your future? We have here the Nine of Cups and the Ten of Cups. So I feel like the future is kind of taunting you. It's going to go one of two ways. If you really, get your hands dirty and really talk to your partner and figure things out and work things out, they're going to be a lot more emotionally receptive. On the other hand, if you choose the easier route, which is, I'm just going to turn my back, pretend this person doesn't exist, not say that apology, not approach things from their perspective, or if you just resign yourself to the fact that, this is too hard, I have other opportunities, I have other people I can date. Yes, you do have other opportunities, and you do have other people you can date. Your options are limitless, actually. But I feel, honestly, some of you really pride yourself in your ability to solve problems when they creep up. You don't like to leave things hanging. And so, yes, emotionally and physically, you can move on. But there's always that nagging sense in the back of your mind, like, did I do everything that I could do to fix that situation? And so, what decision here can you make that you can live with? I feel like that's really important to reiterate, okay? What decision can you make, in this relationship that you can live with down the line, where you feel like you didn't shortchange the relationship partner, where you feel like I should have been more patient with them. I should have, ride it out till the wheels fall off. So I feel like there are so many things here that needs to be kind of analyzed, and it needs to be slowed down, and you have to see it through the lens of your relationship partner. And I feel like that's where the challenge is. But you can do it, Taurus. I feel like you have, endless amount of patience. I definitely see a very heavy air sign, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, that might be a source of contention for you. It's a very, very stubborn person, and they're so smart and so articulate, but there are fundamental truths that you feel like they're lacking, and you're just like, how can they be so smart, so educated, so articulate, but they don't know basic things? And then from their perspective, they're looking at you as if you're just stubborn. you won't change, and you won't talk to them. I feel like you need to communicate more. You won't talk to them about why you believe the things that you believe in. You know, you won't talk to them about why you do this certain thing every single day, why you're a creature of habit, why you believe in, you know, what you believe in. I don't feel like you give them enough of a context and enough of an explanation as to why you do what you do. And then from their end, they always explain what they do. And you know, it can get very repetitive. It can get very tiring, but at least they explain, because the nature of air signs is that they communicate. And I feel like earth signs don't do enough communication. So if you're in a relationship with an air sign, it is time to communicate. If you're dealing here with the fire sign, things look very, very prosperous. And, you know, I feel like they love you a lot. And, you know, that's a good relationship partner right there. It seems like they really, really care. But I also feel like they require so much attention. And if you're very, very busy, you might not have the time to constantly, you know, give them that validation and that attention. And so you're looking for a relationship partner that is a little bit more sure of him or herself. And you have this air sign here that is low maintenance. They don't need a lot of attention, but there is a battle of wills here. And it just feels like, it feels very cyclical. I'm also seeing this. So if you look at it, the cards are almost like very identical. So I feel like, you know, they can be like this, where they're very hard up and difficult. But if you say what you need to say to please them, they can turn very, very sweet. So this is a person that is very, very sweet, but they live in their head. So it's kind of frustrating. You want the sweet side to come out. And I feel like you know how to invoke the sweeter side. So I feel like the ball's in your court. Actually, you know what you have to do. If it's an apology, then, you know, give the apology. But I feel like you need to understand the reason behind it. So maybe talking things out would be helpful. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that, Taurus. I'll talk to you guys in the mid-December reading. So take care of yourself. Okay. And, enjoy your holiday season with your family and get this resolved so it doesn't come back in the mid-month reading. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.